There was indeed a first time for everything, and Hieronymus and I spent about 2 days covering the house with first times. Honestly, I kind of loved the way we seemed unable to keep our hands off each other. Maybe it was just the lingering emotions from the affection spell Potsdam cast on us, amplified by being in the other world, or maybe it was the first time that we were finally relaxed and free. Here, there was no one around. There was no one to judge our relationship or care what we did. We were free to just exist, just like I always wanted. Can we spend the rest of our lives like this? I asked him. We were lying on a furry rug in front of a fireplace with Hieronymus's back leaned up against a neighboring sofa while I cuddled into his chest. Can we just spend every day screwing in a different room? That would last us a year at the very least. Oh, if only, Hieronymus says as he musses my hair. I think you would get bored of solely my company for the rest of your life, though. Not if we keep doing this, I say as I roll over so I can press my lips against his overheated skin. You are amazing. Yes, well, Hieronymus blushes, and I love how embarrassed he gets when I talk about being intimate. Instead, I quickly decide to put him out of his misery and change the topic. I think I'm starting to get hungry, though, I venture. It's weird. We've been here 2 days, and we haven't eaten anything, and I'm only now beginning to feel hungry. As I've mentioned, you experience things differently in the other world, Hieronymus reminds me. Right now, you have constant access to magic, so you experience your physical needs, like sleep and nourishment, to a lesser degree. I'll ask you more about that later, I say as I slowly get to my feet. Right now, it's time to make our way to the kitchen. We were in the kitchen yesterday, Hieronymus says dryly. Or do you not remember? It was hard to forget how cold that giant gray metal table was against my back, but I just grinned at him. Oh, I remember. Maybe this time I'll actually get to eat something too. Hieronymus's face turns bright red, and I can't help but laugh. Okay, I'm going to head to the kitchen. I'll see you whenever your legs start working again, okay? Hieronymus hesitates. And you're sure you won't get lost? Me get lost? I ask as I head out into the hallway. Impossible. But I did get lost. Of course I got lost. This place was a mansion, and there were staircases and long corridors everywhere. I had no idea where I was going, but fortunately, after a good long while of searching, I was somehow able to finally make my way to the kitchen. I open the refrigerator door and see a wide selection of vegetables and meats all laid out for us. There are a few varieties of squash and vegetables I recognize, but there were many that I didn't. Did they harvest their own food from the other world too? Were there livestock raised specifically in the other world that I couldn't eat back at home? Suddenly, I think I hear something from out in the hallway on the opposite side of the kitchen. The corridor is dark, and I slowly make my way over to it, peeking out into the hall. Hieronymus? I take a few steps into the hallway, glancing left and right, but I don't see anyone. Maybe it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. I turn around to go back inside when I'm suddenly face to face with an older gentleman wearing a formal black suit. I gasp and jump back, brushing my hair out of my face. My apologies, Mrs. Grabiner. I did not mean to startle you, the man says, and I just smile and shake my head. No, I'm sorry, I say. It's just Hieronymus told me that no one else was going to be here. Oh, I've been here a long time, the man replies. Everyone who comes here wants to stay as long as they can. Some of us like it so much that we just don't leave. Oh, I say, stammering awkwardly. Yeah, I can understand that. This place is huge. I tuck a strand of hair behind my ears, trying to quell the feeling of dread rising in my stomach. I mean, we appreciate you keeping up this place, but it's the holidays. You really you don't have to stay. I don't have to stay, but no one said I have to leave. The man replies with the lopsided smile that reveals aged yellow teeth. I try to force a smile when I think I hear a child's giggle from behind me. Not wanting to turn my back on the stranger, I turn my head over one shoulder, but the end of the corridor is pitch black, and I can't make out anything. Are there other people here too? I ask him, almost a bit insistently. Lord Grabiner said he dismissed the staff so we could be alone over the holidays. Even when you're alone in a room, can you ever be sure that no one else is there? There's something eerie in his voice as he says this, and I hesitate, trying to think of what to say, when I hear something fall to the floor between us. I glance down to see a human hand lying on the floor and immediately take a step back as my eyes go to the empty armhole from his suit. Oh, forgive me, he says as he takes a step towards me. I seem to be falling apart. All of a sudden, his nose slips off his face, leaving just two narrow slits in his skull as his skin shrivels back into his head, leaving just a dark blue skull in its place that looks like it's wet and covered with some kind of algae. He reaches for me with his other hand, but all of his skin seems to have melted away, and it's just stringy ligament and bone. I shriek as I duck around him and run back to the kitchen. Pots and pans are swaying on the rack overhead, and the food in the refrigerator has suddenly turned completely rotten. The smell permeates my nostrils, and I immediately pull the collar of my shirt up around my nose to try to taper off some of the stench. All of a sudden, a pot from the overhead rack falls directly to my left, and I jump as I spring away, letting out another scream of terror. I can hear something heading towards the kitchen, like a giant hodag lumbering down the corridor, and I quickly bend down and pull all manners of cooking supplies out of the lower cabinet as I quickly scramble inside of it, closing the door behind me. I can hear something, what sounds like footsteps in the kitchen now, and I hate that I didn't have the foresight to grab a knife to use for defense. I could always use magic, of course, but magic was the last thing on my mind. Right now, I was just a scared little girl, and as I cower in the kitchen cabinet, I hold my breath like a little kid playing hide and seek, hoping that the monster would just pass right by me. I hear the footsteps stop right outside the cabinet door, and I can literally hear my heartbeat pulsing in my neck and in my temple, and I pray that the thumping isn't so loud that it gives away my location. Suddenly, the cabinet floods with light as someone jerks the door open, and I scream at the top of my lungs as I jump up, banging my head on the top of the cabinet. Tori, what is going on? Hieronymous grabs my arm and yanks me to my feet in one fluid motion as I blink and take stock of the area around me. The pots and pans that had started to fall at my feet were all neatly in place on the overhead rack. The refrigerator food was as fresh as it was when I had first seen it, and the only signs of discord in the room were the pots and pans that lay scattered on the floor from where I had pushed them out of the cabinet. There was someone here, I tell him. I don't even realize the tears are on my cheeks until I'm wiping them away. Through there. I point to a door at the far end of the room, and Hieronymous hesitates as he looks back at me before he goes through. I hold on to the table for dear life, and I can feel Hieronymous use a spell. What he was looking for, though, I couldn't say. Tori, there's no one out there, he says gently. I told you, I dismissed the staff. He was an older guy, I tell him quickly, throwing out as many details as I can so that he'd believe me. In a suit, he was wearing a suit. He said something about people never leaving, and then his hand fell off. It fell off, Hieronymous. His hand fell off, and then his skin melted away, and he was just this blue skull. I feel like the oxygen in the room is starting to get thinner and thinner, and I tremble as I grab at the table. Tori, Hieronymous is by my side in a minute, holding me at arm's length. Tori, I don't know what you think you saw, but there's no one else here. He puts a hand on my forehead as if testing for a fever. Did you eat anything? I don't think so, I reply. Could otherworld food really cause someone to hallucinate all of that? You need a good night's sleep, Hieronymous says as he scoops me up in his arms like a little kid. Come on, we'll make breakfast together in the morning. Right now, let's just get you to bed. As he carries me out of the room, neither of us notices the cabinet door slowly slides shut behind us.